Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful, historical, wonderful neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and so wicked happy that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Every episode of Reading with Your Kids is filled with fun, thoughtful, and inspiring conversations with amazing guests who just happen to be writing fantastic books for kids of all ages. You can join our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show, sharing it with your kids' teachers, librarians, the school crossing guard, and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Audible, Player FM, wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Wonderful guests for you today. First up, Kathy Bruner and Sharilyn Gugliotta are here to celebrate Hope the Butterfly Wants to Go. And later in the show, we'll have a listen back to a conversation we had with Veronica DeStefano talking about selective mutism.
Hi, I'm Ashley, a first-time author who loves turning real animals into big adventures for our littles.
And I'm Michael, a scientist, international educator, and textbook author. Ashley and I have teamed up to bring the wildlife believes right into your hands.
Kids will meet real animals like jaguars and tapirs and learn about the struggles they face in the wild. With artwork by local student illustrators, these animals truly come to life for your kids.
And for teachers, we built K-5 toolkits to make it easy to integrate these books into the classroom, all with age-appropriate activities that connect literacy, science, and wildlife conservation.
You can learn more at ashleymosley.com or inspiredadventures.com. Let's keep the adventure going.
Want to let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Once Upon a Dance. OnceUponADance.com. That is the place to go if you are tired of too much screen time. Once Upon a Dance offers unplugged storytime adventures. Read, move, and imagine together. Created by a dance educator, this award-winning collection blends movement with whimsy. Perfect for families, perfect for classrooms, perfect for libraries and your home. Bring stories to life. Visit OnceUponADance.com or order Once Upon a Dance books at your favorite bookstore. Join us right now from the great state of Georgia. Our guests are here to celebrate their brand new picture books. One is called Hope the Butterfly Wants to Go. The other is called Hank the Slug Wants to Eat. Please welcome to the show the co-authors. First, Kathy Bruner. Kathy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Jed?
Wonderful. Wonderful to meet both of you. And also coming from Georgia, Sharilyn Gugliotta. Sharilyn, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Sharilyn, why don't you tell us about Hope, the butterfly, and why she wants to go so badly?
Well, she's just an adventurous little butterfly. She's going to spend the day with her Grammy, and it's about all the places that she goes and what her day looks like. It kind of is a story that little children can relate to. It's all the places that they go to. So it kind of lets them follow her throughout the day with her grandmother.
Yeah. Now, Kathy, you shared with us, both you and Sharilyn are speech pathologists.
That's correct.
So I'm guessing when you created these books, it wasn't just, I just want to have this great story I want to tell. There was a deeper purpose behind it. Am I right?
That's very true. We'd seen in our work with children that books are very effective in teaching them vocabulary, even getting them to just pay attention. You know, we start when we are doing early reading with children, just asking them to point to pictures. And so we wanted to create a book that would help parents learn how to develop their child's speech, language, and early literacy skills, in a way that was easy for parents to do, but also easy for the child to pick up on. So we created a lot of repetition in our books and kind of predictable responses so that even little children as young as 2 started to know what the lingo was going to be, and they could sort of, in quotes, read the book for themselves. And it was really important for us to create stories that had really engaging illustrations, but also early vocabulary that a lot of kids, learn to say. They want to go, they want to eat, they want more. So our books are trying to highlight that and give parents the opportunity to enjoy reading, as well as helping their children learn those basic speech and language skills.
Yeah. Sharilyn, it's interesting. Just about 45 minutes ago, I opened up my email and I get pictures about books and about stories, and people write to me, hey, would you like to have a story about electromagnetic engineering? But this one woman wanted to write a story and about toddlers, and one of the questions that was asked is when are kids supposed to start talking? And I guess so since I don't want that person on my show, I don't know them, you're an expert. When should we be expecting our kids to start speaking?
Well, early sounds should be coming, at a young age, and true words we'll see emerging. By 18 months, you should have some of those true words, mama, dada, more, ball, those kinds of words should be coming in. And around 18 months, you should have typically 50 words, at around 50 words or more. So, for our books, the nice thing is they're early, as Kathy was saying, we use a lot of those early vocabulary, high frequency words that really resonate with young people because they get them what they want. Go get you where you want to be, right? Like go outside, go to the, get more snack, go in the car, go out, whatever it is. So we tried to use words that were high frequency words that start off early on. But we do start with early sounds, typical development starts with early sounds and just vocalizations, and then we get into words.
Yeah. Kathy, my son must have been just a genius, because I swear he came out of the womb speaking sentences and paragraphs, and he hasn't shut up since. He lived by the motto, why use 4 words when 75 are available? What kind of signs should we be looking for as parents that might indicate that our kids are going to need some kind of intervention when it comes to speech and communication?
Well, definitely, as Sharilyn said, if you don't see your child building a vocabulary, if you don't even see, a child that's even a year old starting to try to mimic some early sounds that you're saying, even if they're animal sounds, that's usually how we start with children, is getting them to, to say what a cow says, what a sheep says. So if you're not seeing that, and then if they're picking them up, but they're not growing those into words, and you're not seeing a child even use gestures, they're not waving by, they're not, putting their hands up to indicate that they want up. If you're not getting those kind of interactions with your child, then you definitely want to get some intervention and figure out why and what you can do to grow those. We tell parents there are definitely some children who are late talkers. My 3rd child was a late talker, and I was a speech pathologist, so I was very anxious about that. And my 1st child was like yours. I think she came out of the womb talking. But what I think parents need to know is that you need to get that norm for every child so that you can know how you can assist your child in developing some type of communication system. It might be early on just learning to sign some words, but you want an interaction. And you want that interaction from a very young age. You want to see it at 12 months. You definitely want to see it at 15, 18 months. And by 2, they're kind of experts at getting their point across, even if they're just using 2 or 3 words.
Yeah. Sharilyn, I've said this on podcasts in the past. I had a speech. I don't know what I had a speech impediment when I was a kid, and it was thanks to a wonderful speech therapist, Mr. Wallenus, who helped me through kindergarten, first and second grade, that I am now able to do a podcast and never shut up myself. So I really love having speech therapists on because they, one very special therapist played such a big part in my life. What, I guess this will be for both of you, but starting with Sharilyn, what attracted you first to becoming a speech therapist or speech pathologist?
I think just the ability to impact, people's lives. It's like you said, you had a speech therapist and it helped you, and now you're where you are, and it's, you've been successful, but it also, I'm sure, helped your parents. And, like Kathy was saying, even with her third being a late talker, there's a lot of anxiety with parenting and knowing that you're kind of helping not only those children make a difference, but the impact it has on their families. Mm-hmm. The first time a kiddo says, I love you, or, mama, or whatever, those are big moments. Those are moments that we all enjoy, every parent loves, but it seems even when you see them for a child who has said nothing, and they didn't know if they'd ever get there, and now they can say that, or they can indicate, one of our concerns as parents is like, if something happens to my kiddo and they can't tell me, how will I know? And they come home and they're like, oh, boo-boo, and they're like, they told me what was wrong. You feel like, wow, you feel like you've made a difference, and I think that was it for me.
Yeah. What about you, Kathy? What was your motivation to get into the field?
I think that when we're talking about communication, we're talking about everybody has needs. Whether you're talking or not, you have needs, you have dreams, you have, the desire to socialize and to be integrated in a community, in a group. But when you can't communicate in some way, then you're missing that essential ability. And I think that just recognizing that communication is important for all other aspects, whether it's educational or whether it's social. I just thought that teaching somebody how to communicate in some way was critical into helping them have a better life. Mm-hmm. Be part of a better, have a better life and be part of a community where they could feel like they really were able to interact with that community.
Yeah, I love it. We have one of our neighbors occasionally asks us to help watch their 2-year-old, and I didn't know at the time, but I guess he is having some delays. I just have fun chatting with him and reading books with him, and I don't know where he's supposed to be at, but he's a great kid. How important is it, Sharilyn, that we get kids help as early as possible?
Early intervention is definitely important, and I would say critical. Number one, we know typically that 2 to 3 is a stage where little ones start to get frustrated and irritated, and they're navigating their world. And so then you throw in there an inability to communicate your wants and needs. You know what you want. Nobody understands you. That just increases the frustration. So the sooner we can address the situation, the sooner we can start to work on getting sounds. Or it's, again, like Kathy said, it's not always verbal. It might be gestural. It might be with sign. It might be with a communication device. But having a way to communicate your wants and needs is critical for all of us. And at that stage in particular, that frustration is already built into that age of independence and navigating your environment. So anything we can do, and the earlier we get, the less of a gap we have to catch up on. The longer we go, the more we have to work towards making up.
Yeah.
So.
Kathy, we talk about the gap that a lot of kids experience. We celebrate the fact that kids who are read to every day for 20 minutes, by the time they get to kindergarten, they will have heard over 800,000 more words than their peers who weren't read to. And that's a gap that I don't know if it can ever be caught up. It's incredible. What about the kids who are delayed speech? Are they able to catch up in a reasonable amount of time with early intervention?
I definitely think that early intervention is the key to getting kids up to speed to where they need to be. I have parents a lot of times that will come to me very anxious. My child's not talking. What if he never talks? And I assure them most of the time, all of the time we can give them some way to communicate. Most of the time, the parents are going to come back and say, well, they never shut up. And I tell them, well, you have to take the bitter with the sweet once you get them in the role. But I think that, in terms of closing the gap, parents need to know how to close that gap. And sometimes it's not just demanding that a child talk, which is one of the reasons that we created the book, so that they can use the book to kind of give the kids a ramp on to learning some language and to doing some talking. When a child wants something and you're saying, say cookie, say cookie, say cookie, and they're not saying cookie, that can be frustrating for the parent or the caregiver and for the child. But if you're talking about things in the book and you say to them, well, what did this slug ask for? And a child says more, then immediately you take away that barrier of, constantly pressuring the child to respond to you in a communication way with language versus just looking at a story and just telling that information back and forth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah. As Sharilyn, did you ever imagine that, you jumped into the world of speech pathology? Did you ever imagine that you'd be a children's author at some point?
I didn't know if it would ever happen, but I will tell you, it's been an exciting ride. It is very fun, and I've enjoyed the process. It's more than I thought it would be and better than I thought it would be. So it's been really, really fun. And it's been really neat to think about the littles that we work with as we're writing them. They kind of inspire us. Which words would they use, or how would this resonate with them? And it's fun to work together with Kathy as we create the stories.
Yeah. So Kathy, how did this collaboration come to be? Were you sitting around at a speech pathology conference one day and having a snack and saying, we should write a kid's book?
Something like that, but not quite like that. Well, we've been colleagues for a long time, and we both knew that we had a lot of ideas spinning around in our head, but we thought, how can we demonstrate to other people who don't have that background that we have, how they can use some tools, especially books, and getting information across to kids effectively, kind of as a speech and language tool. And we just kind of came up with, well, why not write a book that highlights bugs? Bugs are tinier than kids, and we know that kids love anything even smaller than they are. So that was, one of our reasons to kind of start that. We work well together, and we have we can spin ideas off of each other pretty well, and so we just decided, okay, let's give it a shot. I don't think either one of us ever dreamed how excited people would be to see our books. I guess, we were excited, but we never dreamed that some people would pick them up and say, oh, my 2-year-old absolutely loves this book, or my 3-year-old is reading it to his little sister every night. That was a real thrill for us. That was really something that we never expected.
Yeah. And Sharilyn, you call your company Bug Huggables. There's certain bugs that I like, but I never thought about hugging them. Where did that title come from?
Well, we were thinking about, kids, like Kathy was saying, they all enjoy something smaller than them. And so we thought, little tiny bugs are so cute. They're always looking at them. They love to look at them with their magnifying glasses and catch them. And we wanted to use bugs that were safe in our story in case there were bugs that children were interested in. So we wanted them to be huggable bugs, safe bugs that, should they be out exploring, they would enjoy. Yeah. So we were like, ooh, Bug Huggable sounds very cute and enjoyable for little people.
Yeah. I was in the rainforest in Costa Rica a few years back, and I had on a blue rain, because we're in the rainforest. I had a blue rain kind of poncho thing on, and of course I have blue eyes and my blue glasses here. And this beautiful, very big butterfly, blue butterfly, landed, and we have a picture of it, and it's just, I think I could probably, well, if I hugged the butterfly, I'd probably be bummed out because I could probably crush it, but I could see wanting to hug that butterfly. Kathy, what's the plans for the future? We have the 2 books out, Hope the Butterfly Wants to Go, Hank the Slug Wants to Eat. Are there more bugs and more actions that we're going to write about?
We definitely have some ideas for more bugs. And we also are creating plushies to go along with our characters in our story, because what we have found is not only do kids like to hear the story, but they like to have a little character along with them, to kind of hold on to. So we're in the process of doing that. On our website, we have a complimentary newsletter that people can sign up for. We also offer complimentary resources, which change regularly. So we like to make sure that people know that, they can come to us and get some things that they can start to use to work with their child. Yes, definitely. We have some other stories that we definitely want to, share. And we like input from our readers too. We like to hear, some people will suggest, why not a bug that does this, or why not this? So we're open to a lot of suggestions from people, and we just plan to keep growing.
Yeah. And Sharilyn, also on that trip down to Costa Rica, I saw this one bug that was extremely cool. Our guide said, can anybody see the bug here? And people were like, there's no bug there. What are you talking about? There's a stick over there. And I said, that's the bug. Was this the stick? I don't know what you call it. I call it the stick bug.
Right.
But that might be a really fun bug to write about.
Absolutely. I think that's what I call them too. The stick bugs are
Mm-hmm.
very cool to look at. I think that would be a really great character.
Yeah.
That could be our next one. Who knows?
Kathy, why don't we tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Hope the Butterfly Wants to Go, Hank the Slug Wants to Eat, and maybe Sally the Stick Bug wants to gain some weight. Who knows?
That's a great idea. We have a website, bughuggables.com, and that's where they can go to learn about our books and to get their complimentary resources and sign up for the newsletter. Our books are available on Amazon. Both of our books are available on there, so they can purchase a book if they like in there. And we're also starting to get our books into different stores, and like Learning Express stores and things like that. So it's a good way for, parents to be able to have access to us.
Yeah, yeah. And Sharilyn, just real quick, I forgot to ask this earlier. If a family is seeing that their child or thinking their child may have some delay and they want to get some help, but they don't have the money that they can just run out and hire a speech pathologist, where can a family like that get some early intervention?
If you're under the age of 3, in your state, there'll be an early intervention program. In Georgia, ours is called Babies Can't Wait. You would contact them. That's for Georgia. Every state is different. Mm-hmm. And then they could get you resources and possible assessment if they thought that was what you needed. And then once you turn 3, that becomes, you can contact your local schools, and then you can start the process of getting an evaluation to get services through the school system. Again, that's how it works here in Georgia. You can always go to your pediatrician and get a referral to a speech therapist and, see which one's covered in network. But again, in your state, there will be an early intervention from birth to 3, and then from 3 on up would be your state school evaluation intervention if you were not doing private, if you were not able to do private services. But if you are concerned, if a person is concerned or, has concerns, definitely early intervention is key. And also many places do screenings where we do screenings periodically. So at least it gives you some insight as to maybe this is just typical and the things that you're concerned about are not actually a concern. Or maybe there's a need for further assessment. So also check in your areas at local private clinics to see, because a lot of places will do screenings free of charge.
Neat. I like that answer. Ask your pediatrician. If the pediatrician doesn't know, you should probably get another pediatrician. We've had a great time speaking to the authors of Hope the Butterfly Wants to Go. Our guests have been Kathy Bruner and Sharilyn Gugliotta. My friends, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank
you so much for having us.
It's been lovely.
Hey families, would you like to share a miracle with your kids? At the Wolf Conservation Center, hope was fading. The endangered Mexican wolves dreamed of a pup, but none had come. Until one tiny miracle changed everything. Meet Trumpet, a real-life wolf pup whose incredible birth brought joy, hope, and a lesson in conservation. Trumpet the Miracle Wolf, written by Leocadia George, is a heartwarming true story that will inspire your whole family. Teach your kids the power of hope, love, and protecting endangered species. Get your copy today and join the wild adventure. Well, I'll let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is also brought to you by We're Going on a Space Adventure, written by Marie Nichols. This is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Blasting off and speeding through space, Graham cheers to the moon and beyond. But Bracken quickly learns that Graham has a fear of flying and that he must manage control of the spaceship. On the moon, they narrowly escape a hideous monster as a crater explodes, and on Mars, they need to outrun Martian creatures or risk becoming their dinner. Hoping to find a friendlier planet, they decide to try Jupiter. Then clank, 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 something is attacking the spaceship. You and your kids are going to love this book. It's fun. It's exciting. It celebrates intergenerational friendships, and we love those. We're Going on a Space Adventure by Marie Nichols. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Hey, my friends, I have a super idea you are going to love. How about this weekend, turn your backyard cookout into a storybook celebration. Fire up the grill, crack open a few of your favorite picture books, and serve up Big Fork Brand's legendary bacon sausage. Made with nitrate-free bacon and premium pork, it's juicy, smoky, and unforgettable. Top it off with Big Fork's spicy Chicago fire sauce, and you've got a meal as bold as the characters in your favorite bedtime tale. Get 20% off your order using the promo code READ at bigforkbrands.com. That's bigforkbrands.com. Promo code READ to get 20% off, because nothing brings families together like great food, great books, and a whole lot of flavor. Big Fork Brands. Read, grill, repeat. Join us right now from the beautiful state of North Carolina. Our guest is here today to celebrate her beautiful picture book. It's called Lucy Lemon and the Brave Bubbles. Please welcome to the show, Veronica DeStefano. Hey, Veronica, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm excited to talk to you about the Brave Bubbles. What makes these bubbles so brave?
So what makes this so awesome is this story is actually written about my youngest daughter, Lucy. When she was 4 years old, she was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder called selective mutism. And for a while, she was pretty misunderstood. She was thought of as rude, kind of a standoffish child, but it was actually this disorder. It's a severe social anxiety disorder. It was really sort of confusing for us because at home she was, your normal outgoing, bubbly child, but at school she'd completely shut down and wouldn't be able to talk to her teachers or peers or anything. And it wasn't until 4 that she got diagnosed with this disorder. And as she progressed through school and things like that, she had a special ed team and a speech therapist that would work with her on a daily basis to try to help her be able to communicate. And that is sort of where these brave bubbles came into existence. Lucy and her special ed teacher came up with this idea of bubbles, sort of taking deep breaths to create these bubbles before the start of each day and popping them along the way throughout her day. Simple things of like just walking into school was tough for her, so she would pop a little bubble each time she'd walk in, and that was her way of almost encouraging herself to keep going and to keep trying to pop her bubbles no matter how big or how small her accomplishment was with her anxiety. And one day after school, I asked her, I'm like, Lucy, how many bubbles do you pop today? And she told me some crazy kid number, like 100 million bubbles, you know. And she goes, Mom, do you know what's inside my bubbles when I pop them? And I said, what's inside the bubbles, Lucy? And she says, purple and pink glitter. And it falls on me, and I sparkle every time I do something brave. And I thought to myself, well, that would be a really cute story to tell about how Lucy, who's struggling with her anxiety and has these brave bubbles that make her sparkle with confidence, and would also maybe help other children and teachers and parents understand her situation a little bit better as well.
You know, that is fascinating. First off, I'm so delighted for your Lucy and want to compliment her team of teachers and educators that they were able to come up with such a unique and obviously pretty effective way for Lucy to deal with some of her anxiety. Selective mutism is something I've experienced, not myself personally, but have experienced at least once. My daughter, she was in a really special group of kids. You know, there were classes, and there are some classes that are just miserable. You just go in there, and it's like, ugh, these kids, there are other kids that are just beautiful, and they're so supportive of each other. And that was my daughter's class. But there was one kid in her class who I'm going to guess was dealing with selective mutism, because just as you explained, at school, she would not talk at all. And I know myself, I would reach out to her and intentionally try to help her feel comfortable and try to get her to talk, and nothing. And meanwhile, her parents are like, I don't get it. At home, she never shuts up. And, you know, so I don't know if the family had received a diagnosis of selective mutism. We're talking about 15 years ago.
Sure.
But it's really, it was painful for all of the kids in that class, and that they all really tried hard to make this young woman feel comfortable. Yeah. And they got frustrated because no one sat down with them and said, hey, this is a kind of a neurodiverse thing, and she's really not in control of it. To the point where probably by the end of the school year, the kids are just kind of like, they're not even trying anymore. You know, they weren't mean to her, but
they gave up on her. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm really happy that we're talking about this today, because, you know, we're closing in on 1,900 episodes, and I think this is the first time we've talked about selective mutism.
Yay!
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, and like you said, kids don't understand unless they've been explained to it about it. And I think this book too, because it was read to all her classmates and stuff, and it finally clicked. They're like, oh, that's just Lucy. She's not mad at us. She's not being mean because she can't say hi or answer our question. And it's really helped Lucy make friends, because instead of kids walking away from her when she wouldn't talk, or like in your instance, giving up on her, they're like, well, this is just Lucy. We're just going to pull her in and have her play with us. And that helped her build her confidence and her friendships as well.
Yeah. Is there I mentioned that this falls under the neurodiverse kind of umbrella, and I kind of took a chance doing that because it wasn't positive, but it is something that's in that neurodiverse umbrella, and do we know what's going on? Are we able to say this is causing it, or what more do we know?
I don't think it's it's not trauma related. It's not. I don't think it's anything that we could have done to prevent it. It might have honestly been a little bit hereditary, because while my daughter was going through therapies and doctor's appointments and things like that, I realized that I potentially had this as a child as well, undiagnosed. Because again, I was like back in the 80s, 90s, and that wasn't a thing. But, it's just everyone has different levels of anxiety, and it's how her body responds. The fight or flight, she just freezes up, and she wants to talk so bad. She told us at home, I want to talk, but it's just her body will physically not let her. So it's a lot of work. We've been working since she was 4. She still has a speech therapist. She still has a special ed team that comes in, and it's a lot of exposure therapy, just exposing yourself continuously to public speaking or initiating conversation with people. But I don't know if there's an actual real cause for it, as more it's just how she was wired, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know that, and I've heard it said very often, that public speaking is the thing that is most terrifying for a huge percentage of the population. Yeah. And it's funny because there was a time in my life where I had a really hard time getting up and speaking in front of people. And now I've been making a living for 35 years doing presentations in front of kids, audiences from 50 kids to 10,000. And I don't think of it anymore. It's really easy to get out there.
Yeah. It's an exposure therapy.
It probably is. It probably is. So is this something that we're hoping that Lucy is going to be able to get over, isn't the word, but find solutions for, or find ways to enable her to be more comfortable speaking to others?
Yes, and it's one of those things we have to work at daily. I don't think she'll ever be healed or fixed. There might always be something that would trigger that type of response from her, but she has made drastic improvements, and she's 9.5 now, so she's made some big improvements. She just recently was able to get up in front of her class and do a speech by herself, which is something that would have never happened 4 years ago. She's on a competitive cheer team now, and she's one of the flyers, and you see her with this big smile on her face, something like drawing that much attention to herself, something that would have never happened a couple years ago. So there are baby steps that we're making and improvements that we're seeing. I think it's always going to be a lifelong work for her, depending on what situation she's in. So, I mean, we're just happy with what we've seen so far, and I think her little brave bubbles have really made a big difference, and we're hoping with this series to kind of help other kids, not necessarily with just selective mutism, but maybe any other anxieties in general, find a way to cope.
Yeah, we're learning so much more. I'm curious because I'm almost 100 years old, so, I don't know if anxiety had been invented when I was a kid. But we certainly didn't hear about kids suffering from anxiety. And even, when I graduated from college and was working in human services, anxiety, maybe you heard it once in a great while, but now it's something that we're hearing a lot of, and we're finding out that lots of kids are dealing with anxiety, in addition to lots of adults. Do we have an idea? Have kids always had to deal with anxiety and it just was going undiagnosed, or do you think that there might be something that's causing more and more kids to have to deal with this?
That's a good question. I feel like maybe kids for hundreds of years have had anxiety, but it's always been approached differently. I think luckily for kids now, we're in a world that's open to discussing mental health, where I feel like even my generation or my parents' generation before, mental health was not up for discussion. It was just, you're fine, things like that. Where kids now, there's adults that understand this is a real thing. It can happen to kids. It can happen to adults. And I think I think the world's changed a lot too. We're more busy and there's always stuff coming at us. And I think that heightens your anxiety as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a good point. Yeah. We are in a much faster paced society. We're exposed to more and more information. Information is coming at us literally at light speed. And I'm imagining that probably human beings were never really wired to have to deal with so much information coming in that quickly.
I agree.
Yeah. It's interesting when you think about this, that your daughter suffered from this anxiety everywhere except at home. Isn't it wonderful that she felt really comfortable at home where she was able to speak?
It is. And I think that's why it was so hard for us at first to understand why this was such a problem at school, because she'd be putting on shows with her sister and laughing and talking and carrying on. And then she'd get to school and the teachers would hand me a stack of papers and say we couldn't do her preschool assessments because she wouldn't tell us what she knows. I'm like, what do you mean she wouldn't tell us what she knows? So I would have to take them home, and of course we'd blow right through them. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to understand that, and that's, I think, where the whole selective thing comes from. And selective, I don't really like that word because it makes it seem like it's a choice. Mm-hmm. It's not a choice. I think situational mutism would have probably been better fitting, because depending on her situation is when her body decided to freeze up. Mm-hmm. She wasn't making a choice to do that. She was physically unable to speak in certain situations.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think situational is a much more accurate label, if you will, for what Lucy was dealing with. How excited or what's Lucy's feeling now that her story is being shared with kids all over the world through your book?
Oh my goodness, she loves it. So all of her friends still call her Lucy Lemon at school, and she carries a lemon backpack to school. Like, she's kind of just made it this whole personality for her. But so, like, I'm part of selective mutism groups, and I've spoken at summits for selective mutism, and she's gotten little letters from kids across the country who also have selective mutism, and they write letters back and forth encouraging each other. And I think it's just built this community for her that she wouldn't have had without this book and people finally understanding why she was this way.
Yeah. Well, Lucy Lemon and the Brave Bubbles, it's one of a series of 3 books. There's 2 story books and an activity book. Can you tell us the other titles?
So the activity book is Lucy Lemon's Brave Bubble Activity Book. It's got a couple coloring pages with, positive affirmations, coloring what's inside your bubble, and things like that. But then it's also in the back got tips and resources for parents and teachers, like how you can help your child or how you can help a student who you think might have this disorder. It's got a list of music. Lucy has this playlist of music that she used to listen to on the way to school to kind of pump her up for her day and get her ready. So it's all kind of fun games and activities to boost their confidence and to help their inner group of people help them with their anxiety throughout the day and get them the help they need as well.
Yeah, yeah. And what was the other story name?
And the other one is Lucy Lemon's Brave Bubble Pop. And this is sort of a resource for teachers, speech therapists, or like some kids with selective mutism, they have trouble speaking to certain family members. Like, everyone's selective mutism kind of looks differently. So I came up with this idea of popping bubbles with Lucy. So it's pages, and different pages have bubbles on them. And each bubble has a yes or no response, a forced choice question, or an open-ended question. So the person reading can ask, oh, do you like the red bird or the blue bird? And the child would answer red. And you could just pop a bubble with Lucy. Or if the child's not ready to answer an open-ended question, you could do yes or no questions. And any type of response, like a yes or a no, nonverbal communication would count as popping a bubble. And it's kind of a fun way to get them to communicate without a lot of pressure on them through reading a story and sitting and being comfortable on the couch or being comfortable at school or wherever they are. So that was a resource I came up with more for the people who know a child with selective mutism.
And where are we at with our understanding of it? Obviously, it's something we're hopefully understanding more and more. Is this something that most educators are becoming aware of, or do we still have a long way to go to get the message out there that this is an issue that a lot of kids might be dealing with, and knowing that is going to help a lot more kids?
I think we still have a little ways to go, because it is hard to find a specialist or a therapist in the area that can help Lucy. We got pretty lucky with the school that we're at. They did have experience with a selective mutism child, and there are some that came after her as well that had been diagnosed with selective mutism, and they were able to implement what they learned from Lucy with these children as well. But I do think we have a ways to go, because I feel like we kind of are the exception, not the norm. From what I've seen on moms groups and our selective mutism group, it's really hard to find people that understand this disorder at schools, and it's really hard to find therapists that can diagnose these disorders. But these parents know that this exists, and unfortunately, a lot of these quiet selective mute kids kind of get pushed to the back in school because they don't cause any problems. They just don't speak. So as long as they're getting their work done or whatever, they just kind of get pushed to the side. And so I think in that regard, we do have a long way to go in helping these kids become functional members of their classroom or family or whatever it is.
You know, what you just said was so true. As long as the kids getting their work done, they're not causing trouble. They're just we don't even notice them, and that's. I think that's a problem that is facing lots of kids, and it's a real. Kind of, I don't know, failures. It is. It's a failure of our education system, and it's not teachers' fault. It's it's just that schools are not set up to really get to know every kid individually. I think it would be ideal. I'm sure your daughter has an individual education plan at this point in her career. I think every kid should have an individual education plan. Someone sitting down and going, oh, I know Tommy is really good and he loves sports and everything else bores him. But so if we get him a book about sports, he's probably going to sit down and read, and we can talk to him about math through that and all that kind of stuff. And I think kids would be much better served if we get to that
100%.
point.
Yeah, and I feel like some of these kids, they just get brushed off as shy kids. And but there's a line, as my pediatrician told me when I confronted her about Lucy being really quiet and not speaking in class. I was like, she's just really shy. And she said, well, how long has she not been speaking in class? And I was like, well, it's been a full year. And she kind of just gave me this look like that goes well beyond shyness. If they never warm up, it like a month probably, kids should warm up and be able to talk to their teachers and peers or whatever. But if it's gone on a year, like that's not shy anymore. And we shouldn't brush those kids off as just being shy. There might be honestly something wrong, and the earlier interventions we can get and the earlier help and therapies we can get for them, the better off they'll be in the future.
Absolutely. Where can people go? We're going to ask people to go and tell people where they can go to your website or to find out specifically about Lucy Lemon and the Brave Bubbles. But are there support groups, if you think that your child is or a friend's child is dealing with this, is there a place where we can go to get some more information to give to our teachers and their counselors so that hopefully these kids can get the help they need as early as possible?
So there are a couple organizations. There's the Child Mind Institute, where you can go in there and you can search selective mutism. Kurt Psychology is another one that specializes in selective mutism disorder. And then smhelp.org, I believe, is another one that has all these different resources. You can look at the symptoms. You can even have a teacher checklist or a teacher page where you can print off that explains, like, this is what my child's going through. This is how you can help them. And then the process of getting them those IEPs and things that they need to be successful in school.
Yeah. So important. And what a difference it can make in a kid's life when they get the right help.
Yes, huge difference.
Yeah. Do you plan on writing more of Lucy's adventures?
We've talked about it. Lucy loves her books, but so I would like to write more in the future, especially as she gets older and maybe has new fears or anxieties to overcome. But I can't write a book about one kid without writing about the rest of them. So I do to write about my other kids too, and share their stories as well. But I do hope to get back to some Lucy Lemon because I do feel like it made a big difference in the selective mutism community.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Lucy Lemon and the Brave Bubbles would be part of that resource page that we were just speaking about. In the meantime, where can people go to find out more about Lucy Lemon and find out more about you?
So you can find all of these on Amazon, or you can also find me on Facebook. Story to Tell Author is my handle, and then on Instagram, I'm at It's V DeStefano, and I have the links to all those as well.
Thanks for joining us here on Reading with Your Kids, where real magic happens every time a child opens a book with someone they love. Please connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, @readingwithyourkids on Instagram, and @JedleyMagic on X. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. And our website, it's readingwithyourkids.com. It's a great place to go to visit our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame, find out how you can be a guest here in the show, and find a great book. We mentioned earlier that Marie Nichols, We're Going on a Space Adventure, is our latest Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. You can read our whole review at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to give a big thank you to the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guests, Kathy Bruner and Sharilyn Gugliotta. Please be sure to check out their two books, Hope the Butterfly Wants to Go, Hank the Slug Wants to Eat. Also want to give a big shout out to Veronica DeStefano. That was a great conversation we had about her book and about selective mutism. I want to thank my fantastic team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, but most of all, we all want to thank you. You are helping to shape a kinder, smarter world, and you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of, what's the name of the, oh, yes, Reading with Your Kids.